quote.
So let's talk about it with criminal defense attorney Pate. He is the forensic evidence. We're talking about the forensic evidence here, first of all, because there was a lot of it, Paige, but none of it pointed to Skakel in the first place.
Right.
It was all witness testimony,
exactly.
right?
It was a very circumstantial case, yes.
So were you surprised that he was convicted or surprised that he was let go in 2013?
Well, it's a great question. I was a little surprised at the conviction because it was all based on testimony, no solid, hard evidence that linked him to the crime. But I was also surprised that it was overturned. When you overturn a conviction based on ineffective assistance of your lawyer, you don't just have to show that your lawyer made a mistake or even a really ridiculous mistake. You have to show that the lawyer did something that no reasonable lawyer would have done and that made a significant difference to the verdict. And so it took many, many years, but eventually his lawyers proved to a judge in Connecticut that his lawyer wasn't effective. He set aside the conviction and released him from prison.
So what do you think will happen from this point on? If you were his defense attorney,
okay, what
would your strategy be?
I think the first thing I would do is ask the Connecticut Supreme Court to reconsider its decision. It was a close call. It was a 4-3 decision, just overturning the judge's decision, which overturned the conviction. So I would ask them to reconsider, number one. Number two, they still have a federal claim that they can pursue. They put that to the side while they focused on this appeal, so their appeals process is not done. There's still a lot more they can challenge.
Can that appeals process be exhausted, though? Can they go too far with it?
Well, eventually, yes. The case has already been to the United States Supreme Court once.
Right.
They turned it down. They have the opportunity to ask again if that court will accept it. But eventually, perhaps 50, 60 years down the road, the case will finally be over.
Oh, my goodness. All right, I want to move on to the Supreme Court as we look ahead to 2017. They're at reduced strength, in a sense. I mean, there's 8 of them. Based on what we know in the political landscape, how expeditious do you think the confirmation process could be?
I think we're going to see something very shortly after inauguration. We know that President-elect Trump has been thinking about this even during the campaign. He released a list of about 21 people that he thought would make good Supreme Court justices. That list, I think the Federalist Society, a very conservative legal organization, helped him put it together. We see some names coming to the top. Judge William Pryor, who practices here in Atlanta on the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, I think well connected to the Trump administration. So I think we're going to see an appointment very soon after the new year.
There are a lot of things on the docket that are very sensitive. We've got immigration they're going to be dealing with, transgender issues they're going to be dealing with, a lot of things that revolve around race that are just very delicate. How do you anticipate that's going to move further without dividing this country more? Is that even possible?
I don't know that it is possible, but I think we see the same divisions now at the Supreme Court that we do among everyone else, among politicians, among Congress, even the voters. Right now, as you mentioned, not only are they short-staffed, they're at a deadlock. They literally have 4 that were appointed by a Democratic president, 4 appointed by a Republican president. They've been turning down the higher profile cases because they were concerned they couldn't reach a decision.
And they're waiting.
Absolutely.
They're waiting
on that next vote. They're waiting on that next vote. So this next person, the next justice, will make a tremendous difference in how they look at the cases that are currently before them, the cases they decide to accept. And that's going to continue on, not just during the Trump administration, but for a generation or more.
Is there any one particular case that you're looking forward to seeing them adjudicate this year?
Well, on this term, in 2017, they're going to be looking at voting rights cases, which are very important, usually very politicized, because obviously one side is trying to gain an advantage over the other. They handled some of those cases last term, but they've really kept them sitting in the background, on the table, waiting for the next justice. We're also going to see issues about transgender rights, and I also expect some religious liberty cases that are percolating their way up there. I doubt we're going to see much on the abortion front. I mean, we can remember Trump saying it's automatically gone, we're going to overturn Roe v. Wade. That's not going to happen because even with another conservative justice, you have enough votes to preserve Roe versus Wade and abortion rights.
All righty. Good to know. Pate, always appreciate your insight. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Christine.
Day before New Year's. Happy New Year to you.